I was never meant to stand here alone. The white peonies trembled in my hands, their petals too soft, too perfect, like they belonged to a different story. One where nothing broke, one where promises didn't collapse in front of witnesses. Behind me, the whispers had already begun. Low, careful cutting. The kind of murmurs that don't need volume to wound. They slid under my skin, coiled around my ribs, settled into my chest like something heavy and permanent. She's not coming. I didn't turn. I couldn't. Turning meant seeing it in their eyes. The pity, the curiosity, the quiet judgment. And I knew I wouldn't survive that. So I kept staring forward, down the aisle, at the empty space where Minso should have been. My fiancé. The woman who had promised me forever just 3 months ago. Hands shaking as she slipped the ring onto my finger, like it meant everything. The woman who kissed me like I was oxygen and she had been drowning without me. The woman who wasn't here. My throat closed around the thought. Swallowing felt like dragging glass down my spine. The silence stretched too long, thin and suffocating. Someone coughed. A chair creaked. The officiant shifted beside me, her smile stiff, her eyes flicking toward the door as if hope could still walk through it and fix this. It wouldn't. The bouquet slipped slightly in my grip, one petal breaking free and drifting down, landing against the dark wood like a quiet ending. I watched it fall and thought about how easy it would be to leave. Just turn, lift the hem of this dress. Walk away before anyone could say it out loud, before the moment could fully become real. But I didn't move because leaving meant admitting it. Admitting I had been left, that I wasn't enough, that whatever I believed we had was something fragile I'd dressed up as permanent. Something I had trusted too blindly to question. The whispers grew louder. Jisoo stood near the front, her face pale, her hand pressed to her mouth like she was holding something back. Shock, grief, maybe anger on my behalf. I wanted to tell her I was fine, that I could stand through this, survive it, pretend it didn't carve something out of me. But my voice was gone, buried under humiliation, under grief, under something sharper that refused to be named. I closed my eyes. Forced air into lungs that didn't want to cooperate. Breathe. Just breathe. But the air wouldn't come. And then a voice cut through everything. She's mine. It was calm, clear, unshaken. My eyes snapped open. A woman stood at the back of the chapel, already moving forward. Tall, composed, dressed in a black suit, tailored so precisely. It looked like it had been built around her. Her hair was pulled back, dark and sleek, her expression unreadable in a way that felt deliberate. She didn't hesitate, didn't slow. She walked down the aisle like the space belonged to her, like the silence parted for her without question. I didn't know her, but the way she looked at me made my chest tighten. Like recognition lived there, even if I couldn't name it. The room shifted around us. Gasps, whispers, confusion rippling through the guests like a wave breaking against stone. Someone said something under their breath, a name I didn't catch. It didn't matter. She didn't stop. Not until she reached me. She extended her hand. Come with me. Her voice softened, but there was something beneath it, something steady. Certain, I stared at her hand. At the long fingers, the open palm, the quiet insistence in the gesture. I don't know you, I managed, my voice barely holding together. Her lips curved, but it wasn't quite a smile. It carried something heavier. Not yet. She took my hand anyway. Her touch was warm, firm, grounding in a way that made the room tilt slightly, like everything else had been unstable and I hadn't noticed until now. My breath caught. Something inside me stilled. There was no hesitation in her grip, no doubt, just certainty, like she had already decided this moment long before I stepped into it. Who are you, later? She slipped her coat off her shoulders and draped it around mine. The weight settled over me like armor, shielding me from the room, from the eyes, from the reality waiting to swallow me whole. Right now we're leaving. I should have resisted, should have demanded answers. Should have pulled my hand away and reclaimed whatever dignity I had left standing at that altar. But I didn't, because I didn't want to stay. I didn't want to stand there holding flowers that were already dying, wearing a dress that suddenly felt like a costume in someone else's tragedy. I didn't want to be the woman everyone would remember as the one who was left behind. And she was offering me an exit, so I let her. She turned, still holding my hand, and guided me down the aisle, past rows of silent guests. Past Jisoo, frozen in shock, past the officiant, who looked like she might collapse under the weight of confusion. No one stopped us, no one spoke. Outside the rain had begun, soft at first, then heavier, soaking into the edges of my dress, blurring the world into something unrecognizable. A black car waited at the curb, sleek, expensive. Out of place, she opened the door for me. I hesitated. Why are you doing this? She looked at me fully then, her gaze sharp enough to cut through everything I thought I understood. For a brief moment, something cracked in her expression. Something raw, something almost painful. Because no one else will. And then she guided me inside. The door closed. The world outside disappeared. The car moved. I sat there, trembling, still clutching the bouquet like it was the last thread tying me to the person I had been an hour ago. She didn't speak, didn't reach for me again. Just stared out the window, her expression locked behind control so precise it felt intentional. Rain streaked across the glass. The city blurred into something distant and unfamiliar. And somewhere between one breath and the next, I realized I had no idea where we were going, or who she really was, or why her presence felt less like danger, and more like something I had been missing without ever knowing it. The silence stretched until I couldn't bear it anymore. Who are you? She turned her head slowly, her gaze settling on me with quiet weight. Ryuja. The name meant nothing, and yet, the way she said it made it feel like it should. That doesn't answer anything, I know. Her voice didn't change, calm, controlled, like she was choosing every word carefully and leaving the rest behind on purpose. I watched her, waiting, searching for something that made sense. Why did you say I was yours? Her eyes didn't waver. Because you are. The words hit harder than they should have. I don't even know you. Not yet. That certainty again. Unshaken. Like time itself was just something she was waiting to catch up. The car turned. The rain grew heavier. Streetlights stretched into gold across the glass, distorting everything outside into something unreal. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. Something in her voice shifted then. Barely. Enough to suggest regret. Enough to suggest this wasn't as simple as she was pretending it to be. I looked away, catching my reflection in the window, pale. Hollow. Still dressed like a bride in a story that had already ended. I wanted to tear it all off. The dress, the memory, the version of me that had believed so completely. But I couldn't, so I sat there instead, breathing through the tightness in my chest, holding on to what little composure I had left. The car jolted slightly over a bump. I lurched forward, and her hand was there instantly firm, steady. Wrapped around my knee, grounding me before I could fall apart again, I froze. Her touch lingered a second too long. Her thumb brushed once against the fabric of my dress, deliberate or accidental. I couldn't tell, and I didn't know if I wanted to. You're shaking, she said quietly. I hadn't noticed. Not until she said it. Not until the tremor became undeniable, running through me like something breaking loose. I'm fine. You're not. Her hand slipped away slowly. Like letting go cost something, I exhaled, but it didn't help. Nothing did. How do you know my name? She didn't hesitate this time. Tyrie. The way she said it made something twist inside me. Like it had been waiting there. Like it belonged to her voice in a way that didn't make sense. You didn't answer. I know a lot about you. That should have terrified me more than anything else that had happened today. It did. But beneath the fear, something else stirred. Something dangerous. Something curious. Her gaze softened, just slightly, enough to reveal the cracks beneath all that control. Enough to show that whatever this was, whatever she had stepped into my life to become, it wasn't simple. And neither was I anymore. You teach second grade at Riverside Elementary. You bring your students homemade rice cakes on Fridays. You drink your coffee black because your Hermione used to say, sugar was for weak stomachs. The words landed softly, almost casually, but they hollowed me out from the inside. My breath stopped somewhere in my chest, caught between disbelief and something colder. She knew. Not surface-level details, not things anyone could guess. She knew the quiet parts, the habits, the pieces of me that belonged to small private corners of my life. How? Like I said. Her voice dropped, controlled, careful in a way that felt deliberate, like she was holding back far more than she was giving. The car slowed. I turned toward the window, needing distance from her, from the weight of her knowing. The city had changed around us. Downtown. Glass towers clawed at the sky, their reflections fractured by rain that fell harder now, streaking everything into blurred light and shadow. The car pulled to a stop in front of one of them. Tall, sleek, impossibly polished. The kind of building that didn't invite people in so much as decide whether they were worthy of entering. She stepped out first. I didn't move. The door remained open, rain slipping in, cold against my skin. She leaned back inside, her gaze steady, unwavering. Come, I know. She held out her hand again. The same gesture, the same quiet insistence. But I need you to trust me, just for tonight. Her voice softened, not weaker but closer. Just one night. Then I'll tell you everything. I stared at her hand, at the space between us, at the choice she was offering like it wasn't a fracture point, like it wouldn't split my life into before and after. And if I don't? Something flickered across her face then, brief, almost invisible. Pain. Real and unguarded before it disappeared behind control again. Then I take you home. Her voice lowered. And you never see me again. It should have felt like relief, safety, an escape back to something familiar. Even if that familiarity was broken, it didn't. Because somewhere between the altar and this moment, something inside me had shifted. Something unnamed, something fragile and dangerous. Something that made the thought of losing her feel heavier than the fear of staying. So I took her hand, her fingers closed around mine instantly, firm and certain, like she had known I would. She pulled me out into the rain. Cold soaked through me in seconds. The dress clung to my skin, heavy, ruined, dragging against my legs. But she didn't let go. Not even for a moment. She led me forward, steady, unshaken, her grip grounding even as the storm built around us. The building loomed above. Glass and steel cutting into the sky like something unbreakable. A doorman appeared with an umbrella before the rain could touch her again. His attention was entirely on her. Respect lined his posture, edged with something sharper. M's. Ryu. Evening, Daniel. Her tone was easy, calm, as if this was just another ordinary moment in a day that had already rewritten mine completely. The doors opened before we reached them. Inside, everything was immaculate. Marble floors, low lighting, sharp edges softened only by precision. It didn't feel lived in. It felt curated, controlled. My wet shoes echoed against the floor. Every step sounded too loud, too out of place. I could feel eyes on me, though no one spoke. She didn't slow. She led me straight to the elevators, pressed the button for the top floor. The doors opened immediately, like the building itself recognized her. We stepped inside. Glass walls surrounded us. The city dropped away as we rose, lights scattering through the rain like broken stars. I glanced at her reflection. She wasn't looking at the view. She was looking at me. She had been the entire time. My pulse stumbled. I turned away, focusing on the numbers climbing above the doors, on the steady hum of movement, on anything that wasn't the weight of her gaze tracing over me like something deliberate. The elevator slowed, stopped, the doors opened, and the air left my lungs. The penthouse stretched out in silence and light. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped the entire space, the city glittering below like something fragile and distant. Everything inside was minimal, white walls, dark furniture, art placed with exact precision. It felt untouched, like no one truly lived here. She stepped inside. I followed, leaving wet footprints across the hardwood. You should change. Her voice was quieter now. I looked down at myself. The dress clung, heavy and ruined, lace torn by rain and memory. It didn't feel like something I could ever wear again. I'll find something for you. She gestured toward the hallway. Second door on the right, there's a bathroom. Take your time. And then she walked away, just like that, leaving me alone in a place that didn't feel real, in clothes that no longer belonged to me, in a life that had already come undone. I moved slowly, like my body wasn't entirely mine, found the room, stepped inside. Everything was perfect, untouched. A guest room that felt more like a display than a space meant for rest. The bathroom door stood open. I went in, locked it, and then I broke. The tears came all at once, violent and unstoppable. I pressed my hand against my mouth, trying to silence it, but nothing held. My chest heaved, my knees gave out, and I sank to the floor, the soaked dress pooling around me like something already discarded. I cried until there was nothing left, until the grief burned itself out, until all that remained was emptiness, time blurred. Eventually, I stood. My hands moved without thought, peeling the dress from my skin, letting it fall to the tile in a wet, lifeless heap. I didn't look at it. I couldn't. There were clothes waiting, folded neatly, a soft gray sweater, loose black pants, too big but warm. They smelled faintly of lavender, and something else, something that felt like her. I put them on, looked in the mirror. The person staring back at me wasn't a bride anymore, wasn't even someone I fully recognized, just someone hollow-eyed, wrapped in borrowed comfort, standing in the aftermath of something that had already taken too much. I left the room. She was in the kitchen, changed, composed like nothing had touched her, white shirt, dark trousers, hair still damp, pushed back. She moved easily, like the space belonged to her in a way it never could to me. She was cooking. The scent reached me first. Seaweed soup familiar. Painfully so. The kind my Halmione used to make on birthdays, on bad days, on days when the world felt too heavy to carry without something warm to anchor it. My throat tightened. She looked up, saw me, something in her expression softened. Sit. I did. She placed the food in front of me. Soup, rice, small dishes arranged with care, kimchi, pickled radish, spinach perfect familiar, unfairly comforting, eat. Her voice gentled further. You haven't eaten. I hadn't. I lifted the spoon, took a bite, and something inside me cracked open again, not as violently this time, but deeper. Thank you, I whispered. She sat across from me, untouched food in front of her, her attention fixed entirely on me. You don't have to thank me. The quiet between us stretched. Then what do I have to do? She watched me for a long moment, like she was measuring something unseen. Nothing. A pause. Just be here. I forced myself to eat a little more, enough to steady the shaking in my hands. Then I stopped, looked at her fully. How long? Her jaw tightened slightly. A while. How long? 6 months. The number hit harder than anything else. 6 months of being watched, known. Followed in silence. Why? She leaned back, her gaze unwavering. I saw you at a fundraiser. You were with one of your students. He'd hurt himself. You knelt down, wiped his tears, told him he was brave. Her voice lowered, and I couldn't look away. My heart pounded. That's not enough. It was for me. There was more. I could feel it. There's something else. She didn't deny it. The air shifted. Did you know she wouldn't come? Silence. Her expression didn't change, but something in her eyes flickered. That was enough. You knew. I suspected. The word felt empty, useless, not the same. No. I pushed back from the table, the chair scraping sharply against the floor. My hands trembled, anger rising fast enough to choke me. I need to leave. Tyrie, don't. The word cut through the room. Don't say my name like that, like you know me. She didn't move. Didn't try to stop me. I'm not stopping you. I looked at her. Really looked. Then why did it feel like she was? Because you don't want to go. The truth landed hard. I hated it. Hated that she was right. Hated that even now, I couldn't make my feet carry me to the door. Why did you say it? My voice dropped. Why did you say I was yours? She was quiet for a long time. Then she stood, slowly. Deliberately, like whatever came next would change everything. She moved around the table slowly, deliberately, stopping just close enough for me to see the details I hadn't noticed before. The faint lines at the corners of her eyes, the controlled rise and fall of her chest, the tension she carried like armor. Because you look like someone, she said at last. The words sank in slowly, like something heavy slipping beneath the surface. My stomach dropped. Someone you lost. She nodded once, a laugh tore out of me, sharp and broken, nothing like amusement. So that's what this is. The bitterness coated every word. A replacement. No. The denial came instantly, firm, but not strong enough to erase what had already settled between us.
Then what is it?
I don't know. Her voice cracked, just barely, but I heard it. I saw it. The fracture beneath the composure, and suddenly, the woman who had walked into my wedding like she owned the world didn't feel untouchable anymore. She felt human. Too human. I stared at her, at the person who had taken my hand without permission, pulled me out of my ruined life, brought me here, and now stood in front of me like I was the only thing keeping her steady. Who was she? Her expression shifted. Pain flickered. Guilt followed. Something darker lingered beneath both. Someone I couldn't save. The words were quiet, but they carried weight. And you think you can save me. I think I couldn't watch you break the way she did. The truth landed hard between us. I stepped back. Then again, until the glass met my spine, cold and unyielding, grounding me in a moment that felt like it was slipping too fast to hold. You don't know me. I know enough. Knowing facts isn't knowing me. My voice rose, sharper now, steadier in anger than it had been in grief. Knowing where I work, how I drink my coffee, who raised me, that's not knowing someone. That's watching them from a distance and deciding they mean something to you. She didn't argue, didn't defend herself. That silence said more than anything else could have. I pressed my palms against the glass, trying to steady myself, trying to make sense of the way my heart was racing. Not just with anger, but with something far more complicated. How did she die? Her jaw tightened. Does it matter? Yes. For the first time, she looked away. Her gaze dropped, her shoulders tightening slightly, as if the answer physically weighed on her. Fire. The word barely made it past her lips. She died in a fire. The air left my lungs. And you? I wasn't there. Her voice lowered further. I should have been. But I wasn't. Silence filled the space between us, thick and suffocating. I didn't know how to respond to that. Didn't know how to carry something so heavy when I was already struggling to hold myself together. So when you saw me, my voice slowed, careful now. You saw her first. She lifted her gaze, met mine, and something shifted. Now I see you. I shook my head immediately, refusing the weight of that statement. No, you don't get to say that. You don't get to turn this into something real when it started with someone else. I'm not turning it into anything. She stepped closer. I'm telling you the truth. The truth is that you saved me because I reminded you of someone you lost. Another step. That you claimed me in front of everyone because you couldn't let go of your own guilt. No. Then what? She was close now. Close enough that I could see the gold flecks in her dark eyes, the way her throat moved when she swallowed, the restraint in every inch of her body. I claimed you because watching you stand there, alone, waiting for someone who was never coming. Her voice faltered, then steadied again. Felt like I was burning all over again. My chest tightened painfully. That's not fair, I know. Her hand lifted, hesitated, then came to rest against the glass beside my head. Not touching me, not closing the distance. Just there, close enough that I could feel her warmth. I'm not asking you to forgive me, she said quietly. I'm not asking you to stay. I'm asking for one night. Just one. Let me keep you safe. I looked at her then. Really looked. At the woman who had shattered my world and then caught me before I hit the ground. At the contradiction she carried, control and fracture, certainty and regret. And after that, then you decide. Her gaze dropped briefly to my mouth before returning to my eyes. Whether you want to know the rest. Something in my chest shifted again, deeper this time. The rest of what? She leaned in slightly, her breath brushing against my skin. Everything I haven't told you. I should have walked away. Should have chosen the familiar pain over whatever this was. But I didn't, because somewhere along the way, I had stopped wanting to run. Who was she? The question came softer now, and this time it broke something open in her. She was my fiancé. The confession hung in the air, fragile and devastating. I stared at her, at the woman who had taken me from one broken promise into the shadow of another. I want to see her. Pain flickered across her face. I need to see her. My voice steadied, stronger now. If I look like her, if that's part of this, then I deserve to know. She hesitated, then nodded. Without another word, she turned and walked down the hallway. I followed. Each step felt heavier than the last, like I was moving towards something that would change everything again. She stopped at a door. Pushed it open, didn't enter, just let me go in first. The room was like the rest of the penthouse, clean, precise, controlled. But this one held something different. Something lived in beneath the surface. My eyes landed on the photograph almost immediately, framed, placed carefully on the nightstand. She stepped past me, picked it up, held it for a moment like it cost her something, then handed it to me. I took it, and everything inside me went still. The woman in the photograph looked like me, not identical, but close enough to feel wrong. The same shape of face, the same softness in the mouth, the same way her hair framed her features. She stood on a beach, sunlight behind her, smiling into something unseen, alive in a way that made my chest ache. Oh my God, the words barely formed. I looked up at her. This is why. Yes, the answer came soft, almost apologetic. I set the photograph down carefully, like it might break if I didn't. My hands shook anyway. How long? 3 years. 3 years, and she was still holding on. What was her name? Her throat moved before she spoke. Yura. The name settled into the room like something sacred. When you saw me, I thought I was losing my mind. Her voice was quieter now. I didn't want to go to that fundraiser. Someone dragged me there, and then I saw you. A pause. For a second I thought she came back. The honesty in it made something twist painfully in my chest. And then you started watching me. I couldn't stop. I looked at her, really looked. The control was still there, but it wasn't perfect anymore. The edges had cracked. You know I'm not her. I know. Then why? Because I couldn't watch you break the way she did. Her gaze locked onto mine, intense, unguarded now. When I saw you standing there today, waiting for someone who wasn't coming, her voice broke. It felt like it was happening again. She turned away, pressing her hand against the window, her shoulders tight, her breathing uneven. I should have been angry, should have walked out, but I understood not everything, not yet. But enough to see that this wasn't about replacing anyone. It was about not losing someone again. I stepped closer, slowly, stopping just behind her. Jiha. She didn't turn. I reached out, hesitated, then let my fingers brush against hers. The contact was light. Fragile, but she felt it. Her hand turned, her fingers curling around mine for a brief second. Just long enough for me to feel the tremor she couldn't hide anymore. "I don't deserve this," she whispered. The words were raw, but stay. My chest tightened. I didn't know what the right answer was. Didn't know what staying meant, or leaving, or trusting someone who had built this entire moment on secrets. Before I could decide, a faint buzzing cut through the silence. My phone left behind. Forgotten. She heard it too. Her hand tightened around mine once, then slipped away. "You should get that." I nodded, even though I didn't want to. I walked back down the hallway, into the guest room, into the bathroom where the dress still lay crumpled on the floor like a discarded version of myself. I knelt, pulled the phone from the pocket. The screen lit up, missed calls. Messages all from one name, Minso. My stomach twisted. I stared at it, at the past trying to pull me back in. I could have ignored it, deleted it, pretended none of it mattered anymore. But I didn't. I opened the messages. "I'm sorry, please, I need to explain. I didn't want to leave you. I had to." The words blurred together. I stood, the weight of them settling into my chest. Then I walked back into the hallway. She was by the window again, her back to me, the city stretching out beyond her like something unreachable. I held up the phone. "It's her." She turned. Something colder flickered in her eyes this time. The phone buzzed again. Her name flashed across the screen. The choice sat in my hand, heavy and unavoidable. "If you answer that." Her voice was quiet, careful. "You'll go back. You don't know that." "I do." Her gaze locked onto mine. "She'll explain. She'll apologize. She'll make it sound like something you can forgive." The phone kept vibrating. "And you will forgive her. Because that's who I was. Because that's what I did. And if I do, then I let you." No resistance, no fight, just acceptance. The phone buzzed again. I looked at it, at the name, at the life waiting on the other side of that call. Then I moved my thumb and answered. Her voice came through. And with it, the truth, and it shattered me in ways I hadn't thought possible.